I am with Kinverly DiCupe, who is the co-chair of the Providence DSA chapter in Rhode Island, co-organizing director at ReclaimRI, and she worked on Sam Bell's state senate campaign in 2020, right now, current. The first thing, I want you to introduce yourself, anything that you want to talk about that you're working on right now, including the Sam Bell campaign. I would love to hear about it.
Really working hard right now on an AfroSoc chapter that we just started here in Rhode Island. So kind of building that out. It's called the Socialist and Socialist of Color. They're affiliated with the DSA. And so we decided to kind of start up a chapter because we felt like there wasn't really working class people of color in organizing spaces here in the ways that they should be if we're talking about things like Medicare for all of these like policies that benefit disproportionately, people who are working class and people of color.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. So when did you start? Is that something that just started in 2020?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And I can ask about how many members do you have right now?
Right now, I think we have like 20, 25.
Okay. And you guys do Zoom like once a month, once a week? How do you organize right now?
Actually, we just held a training, what are some obstacles that folks face when it comes to like organizing in a multiracial space or multi-class. So we held a training on that. It went really great.
Nice.
And then we've been holding like small socials outside and stuff that we could kind of use as an introduction point for folks who we want to get more involved in AfroSoc.
What are some of the issues that you're most passionate about? Like, so for me, it's ranked choice voting. I think that's up there along with others. What about yourself?
Medicare for all is a huge one for me. I have a chronic stomach condition called IBS. And, just going through the medical industry, it was definitely torture. I definitely felt like doctors didn't have enough time for you. Like, it's like they have 10 minutes and you better get out whatever you need to say in them 10 minutes and get out quick.
Nah, I totally understand. I have bad eczema and I've been going from doctor to doctor to doctor and can't get a steady solution to that. So I totally hear you in that area. Tell me, how did your politics form? You're on the DSA, so I'm assuming you're a Democratic Socialist. Was it Bernie that really got you into politics? How did that happen?
I started getting more into politics 2016 with Bernie's campaign. And originally at that time, I was a Hillary Clinton supporter. Like, I was going to go out and vote for her. Like, I thought she was a feminist, a woman, whatever. Like, so I thought she was a progressive choice. And I was hearing about this like old man who like came from another New England state and that he was like championing really like progressive things. But I didn't really start considering to like support Bernie Sanders till I seen like his platform that he was running on.
Okay.
And it was like a little Facebook post or whatever. It might have been an advertisement. Somebody created a meme with some of his like agenda. And so I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this is like, I've never seen a president run on such an agenda. Like, that's just so obviously for people and everyday people. Like, Obama was considered like the progressive choice or whatever. And he wasn't running on nearly, a progressive agenda like Bernie was. So I was like, damn, this agenda's crazy. And I started kind of supporting him. But, I was a surface level person when it came to politics. So it's not like I really understood deeply a lot of what Bernie was talking about. It's just that he appealed to my material interests. But there was a lot of things that I didn't really understand. Like, when I first started listening to Bernie, he would talk a lot about the big bank. And, for me, I was just like, the big banks, what do they got to do with all of this? Like, I was like totally at loss. I'm like, big banks, how do they? And so I started looking more into it, the way that they, crush workers. I mean, just all types of stuff. And so that kind of began my journey. And I think it was really eye-opening to see somebody who was running on an agenda that was obviously for everyday people, and to see the amount of opposition from people who supposedly say like, yes, we want everyone to live a good life and all this nonsense. But it's like when somebody came out with an agenda that would make that a reality, you was out there fighting that. So what does that tell me?
All right, so let's get into the strategy. That's what the people came to hear. And for those who don't know, the Progressive War Room is here I want you, the audience, to find and learn more about how candidates run. I want to demystify how you run, the process, what it takes, because I want you to get involved yourself, whether you become a candidate, whether you volunteer, whether you might be a campaign manager for your local grassroots school board person. So that's what this is about. Tell me about Reclaim Rhode Island, ReclaimRI. How did it start? How did you get involved?
So Reclaim Rhode Island was originally Rhode Island for Bernie. Okay. So it was just like a grassroots group that was pushing for
So let me
Bernie
throw
here.
this at you. I'm curious, why didn't it turn into Rhode Island, like Our Revolution Rhode Island or something like that?
Well, there was already an Our Revolution.
Oh, okay. In Rhode Island? Because I know there's the overall one and then there's the chapters, right?
Yeah, there's a chapter here in Rhode Island. I mean, I wasn't one of the folks who started Reclaim Rhode Island, but I guess a lot of the logic there was that Our Revolution hadn't really taken off on the national level or the local level. And so we felt like we could take Bernie's agenda and form a different group and see where it takes us, because there's a lot of issues within Our Revolution, internal issues.
Interesting. You didn't feel, or your team of people who started Reclaim Rhode Island didn't feel comfortable. Maybe they had their leadership already established and they're like, who are all these young people trying to come and tell us what to do? Or maybe they were too lax. Or I'm just curious, because this is very important. There's other people who in Texas, for example, are no, and I'm just throwing this out as an example. I'm not saying this is what's happening, but there might be young people in Texas who they have a good 10, 15 people ready to go. They go to their local Our Revolution and it's just a whole bunch of people doing nothing. And that would discourage them, and then their fire might dwindle. So instead, it sounds to me that might have happened with you, and then you said, instead of my fire dwindling, we're going to start our own thing. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. You let me know.
I mean, I wouldn't say they were doing nothing, but I think there was like strategic differences, I guess.
Okay, strategic differences. With nothing wrong with that. You know, that's why you start your own group, right?
Right. Out of that came out Reclaim Rhode Island. Reclaim Rhode Island is really kind of a parallel organization to Reclaim Philadelphia. So our co-chair for ReclaimRI is Dan Denver. And so Dan used to live in Philadelphia, which is kind of how he knew about Reclaim Philadelphia. And so he came out and was like, oh, their model is working really well in Philadelphia. They're having a few victories. Maybe we should consider adopting a similar model. And out of that came out Reclaim.
Awesome. I'm glad you said that. So what is that model?
I guess it's not just like focusing on like electoral politics, but doing organizing year round, even on off year, to kind of like build the trust that you need to be able to run candidates and do a lot of electoral stuff.
What's a typical month or two? Like, well, how do they organize? How do you guys organize within a couple of months? Like, what do you do for outreach?
So we do hold like trainings, sometimes just like logistic stuff. We've been holding educational things that people can go to, and I think it's like a book club. It's what it is. And I think I actually went to the last training or whatever, and they were discussing abolishing the police and abolishing prisons. Then there's like the electoral sphere. I'm not super involved like in the electoral decisions. Okay. And Reclaim is also doing a lot of work on the AfroSoc chapter here as well. So
you guys got 4 people elected.
State Senate, state rep.
Yeah, the state senate and the state rep. So you got enough volunteers to make some noise. So tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, there was like definitely a lot of internal debating about whether we should even like endorse any candidates, because we were like debating whether we had like capacity. Because a lot of organizations give out like endorsements, but they don't do any work. So it's like a paper endorsement, like, yes, we support you, but like we're not knocking on any doors or doing anything. And so we were having kind of that internal debate, and we settled on the fact that we'll endorse few candidates, but like actually be able to do some work and make a difference. Reclaim went and interviewed a whole bunch of candidates who were interested in getting like an endorsement from us. And out of all the candidates, we decided like these 4 are the strongest, and we feel like it makes the most sense to canvass and do work for them.
Kinverly, what is it like working on Sam Bell's campaign? What is your position there? What's your job there? And let me know, how's it going right now?
Well, he won his election, his re-election. Wow. And I was his field director for a short bit, because his field director ended up getting hired, and so she moved out of state. And so I kind of took over for like 2 months. It was very interesting. Like, I volunteered for Bernie Sanders' like campaign and stuff, and knocked on doors, but I didn't know a lot of the internal stuff that goes on, like ID numbers and like what's a win number and all these things. We're just not that familiar.
Yeah, what is that?
When you're on doors, you really want to get an ID, which is the person's name, basically.
Okay.
You're really trying to get like the person's name and you know where they're leaning. That's an ID. And that kind of helps you see, like, where is this district? How many votes do I need to take? Where are they landing right now? You would ask them, like, where they're leaning towards. And so if you get enough IDs, you're able to kind of see a picture of the district.
All right. See, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know what an ID is. So this is, along with the audience and you at that time, I'm learning this for the first time. So an ID is not necessarily, I'm thinking when you first said it, is like an ID is just a name and that's it. But it seems like an ID is every attribute to a house. So an attribute meaning their name, maybe the age. Could that be an ID?
I guess it could be, but I mean, usually when you're out canvassing, like you have the person's name or whatever on your phone. Okay. So what you're really trying to get is like, where are you politically? Like, your name is Sally Jensen. Okay. Where are you leaning?
Okay, and that
can we count on you to vote?
That sounds to me, is that like Van? Because I've asked in the other progressive war room. Okay, that's exactly what it is. Are you getting this van from the Democratic Party, or do you guys have your own van?
So Sam Bell was already an elected official, so he might have gotten it from the party. But usually candidates have to pay for their own van, unless you become endorsed by like the Democratic Party, but usually they're not going to endorse you if you're a progressive, so you're going to pay out of pocket.
Got you. And I talked to my guy Tom Wakely in another progressive war room where he talked about how he got his challenger, because he won his primary back in 2016 in Texas. He won his primary, and the person who he was up against, they had a sit down dinner, and he said, I'm not going to endorse you, but I'll give you my van access. And he gave him his credentials, so he was able to start updating the van with his volunteers. But then the Democrats took away his van access. And that was similar to like how Bernie got his van access taken away, but when he ran against Hillary, but he got it back. But with Tom, he never got it back. So is that something that could have happened to you, that you're filling out the van and the Democrats could take away your van access?
Yeah, they definitely can take away your van access, but you can always like just buy it, and it's like $2,000 though.
Okay, so once you buy it, that's it. They can't take it away.
They can only take it away if you're using their van that they're paying for.
Okay. How do you think he is currently doing as a first-time state senator? So he won last year in 2018. He won again, like you just told me, which is awesome. And how you think he's doing as a state senator?
Well, he just got in right now, but Sam Bell is like, so he was the establishment's like number one like person to take out, specifically because Sam Bell is very outspoken and kind of calls out corruption, all types of, all these things that it's not
typical
proper to do at the General Assembly, like call somebody's corruption to their face. And I mean, he's continuing to do that. So he's still continuing to be, you know, their number one enemy, basically. But they low-key have to make peace with it because he won with like 70% of the vote.
And that's a mandate.
Yeah.
Is there anything specifically that the establishment tried to retaliate with, or, you know, anything they try to do, like take away van access? That's one thing that they possibly could do, but they didn't do it. Go ahead.
I mean, where the money comes from.
Yeah.
That's true. So his opponent was Joanne Bryan. And I do believe she was the city councilor president. This is somebody who's been in politics for a while, and obviously was recruited to run against Sam, and they thought like, oh, she's the council president, like she has a good chance to take him out. Obviously that didn't work out, but they had like Twitter pages and stuff that was all like propaganda memes against like Sam Bell, putting his face next to communist symbols and, you know, saying he wants gulags and all types of, you know, the general craziness that tends to come out of these neoliberals. So there was a lot of that type of stuff. It gets harder once you're already elected.
Oh, totally.
So a lot of it was just like attack mailers and then like propaganda on the internet.
How far do you think the progressive movement can go in Rhode Island? So right now you got 4 people, progressives in the state rep and the state senate. Do you see, I don't know how many, the exact number of representatives or the amount of senators you guys have in the assembly and stuff, but like, do you see, okay, we could get a squad, a healthy squad, like we could get 10 in the assembly and 10 in the state senate?
Well, we already kind of have a squad.
Okay.
In the last election, like our candidates won, but there was also this other group called the Political Cooperative from Rhode Island, and they ran a lot of candidates that ended up winning. So we're looking at a state assembly that's going to have like 12 or more new progressives.
Nice.
Like this is enough to like vote out the leadership and basically pass so much stuff. Like they have the votes. It's about whether they're going to organize and get it done.
Okay. Do you see that even progressing even more in the next cycle?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to fight for it. The establishment is definitely going to be ready. I think they were caught by surprise just with what happened. I mean, it was kind of a bloodbath for them. But they're going to come back, you know, well-funded. And we're going to defend our seats and add more.
What do you look for in a progressive candidate?
I really look for a candidate that has vision. I don't like when a candidate tells me something like, oh, I can't really champion this thing because right now we don't have the votes.
Exactly. I hear you.
That tells me you have no vision. And the point of electing a politician that's a progressive is that you're supposed to make it a reality. You don't have the votes right now. You're supposed to go out there and fight to get the votes.
Exactly.
Like that's why we're sending you over there. I definitely look for somebody who has like a coherent ideology, so their policies align.
Okay.
You don't have like policies that are contradicting one another. And you would think that a politician would have like a coherent ideology, but many politicians don't.
Oh yeah, totally. We're going to get to that later. I'm hoping that I can talk to you about the People's Gauntlet. But let me ask you this next question. So how do you recruit, or how does ReclaimRI recruit candidates? Do you identify them, or do people come to you and say, hey, I want to run?
So we didn't recruit any candidates this time around. All these candidates were already running, and we decided, like, you know, they wanted our endorsement, and we're like, okay, cool, you're great.
Okay.
But we didn't run any candidates of our own.
So they wanted your endorsement. How did you vet these guys to, like, I want to make sure you all are progressive, you know?
Well, I wasn't part of the vetting team.
Okay.
But, so the electoral committee did like a one-on-one sit down with all the folks who wanted an endorsement, and kind of ask them questions about their policies. How do you feel about defunding the police? All of these things. And, you know, based on their answers, the electoral committee kind of came back to the XCOM, the executive committee, and was like, okay, so our recommendations are we endorse these 4 people. If the XCOM votes yes, we're going with it. Okay.
What's the XCOM? What is that?
Executive committee.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Were there anybody that did come to the XCOM and then they said, nah, we're not even taking you to the next level?
They didn't we didn't meet with any candidates. So the executive committee didn't meet with any candidates. It was only the electoral committee.
Oh,
and
okay,
then we met up with the electoral committee, and they gave us their recommendations, and we voted on it.
Okay, gotcha. So do you know if, I know you weren't directly involved with that process, but I'm just curious if, was it more than 4 and people got denied?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Okay. So I'm just curious, how many, do you know by any chance? Like, was it 20 people came to you guys and you whittled it down to 4 or what? Yeah.
I don't know how many it was, but there were a few folks who got rejected because we felt like your policy, like,
there was no substance there.
Like, not that there's no substance, but like a lot of people call themselves progressives.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. We're gonna talk about that too.
And then they'll be like, I'm a progressive, but I don't know if I really believe that Medicare for all, like everyone should get the same health care no matter how rich or poor.
Yeah. In the comments below, if you have any ideas for ReclaimRI, put it in the comments below. Any comments in regards to this clip, let me know, like, and subscribe.